Internal controls didn't fail. They were used as the crime scene. Operation Shattered Shield exposed officers escorting cartel shipments via back roads, filing clean logs, and getting paid through Halifax Protective Solutions under the Northlight label. In 50 hours of covert recordings and 27 videos, investigators documented a system designed to look normal. In this video, we follow the money from fake maintenance to security consulting fees and show how $3,000 per officer per run disappeared inside reimbursed budgets. By the end, you'll know every step that turned ordinary paperwork into a $3.4 million laundering stream. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How do patrol cars that barely leave the lot drain fuel cards and trigger maintenance work they shouldn't need? That question opens a door most departments never want to open. Every shift leaves a trail. A fuel swipe tied to a unit number, a mileage entry on a clipboard, a work order when brakes squeal, and an overtime form when a call runs long. These are the everyday guardrails meant to protect budgets, and by extension, evidence. You can audit them. You can match them to dispatch audio. You can see which officer signed which box. On paper, it looks airtight because every step has a signature line and a timestamp. Then the seams start to pull. Seized cocaine turns up in street buys with the same lot markings that should be locked in a property room. Vehicle logs look clean, but several are missing the mileage stamps that are required after fueling. Over time, forms stack up with vague, tasking language that never shows up on the radio logs. If you pull the tapes, there's silence where there should be chatter. The system says the cars moved. The airwaves say they didn't. Either the city got very lucky and ran a perfect week, or someone learned how to feed the system the exact answers it expects. Take one ordinary week. 3 cruisers hit the fuel island across 4 days. The ledger shows gallons, times, and unit numbers. The GPS pings, pulled later, tell a different story. Those units never left the half-mile ring around the station except for a lunch run. Still, the tanks drained on paper. That same week, the fleet contractor bills a brake job on Unit 214. 48 hours later, the same VIN shows another brake service under a different internal cost center, coded as urgent. 2 signatures, 2 dates, no matching work slip in the bay. When you line those charges up next to overtime paid for support tasks, the pattern looks less like maintenance and more like cover. Auditors have a term for this. Controls can be well designed but not effective. If you feed a control good-looking data stripped of context, it passes. Fuel cards that only check unit numbers won't catch a fill tied to a car that never moved. A mileage log without a GPS reconciliation accepts any handwriting. A work order that clears without a bay entry isn't a control. It's a checklist. When design outruns effectiveness, the paper proves nothing. Inside that gap, escort duty gets washed into routine time. An officer rides a convoy on levee roads and later files it as training support. Another carries cash and evidence for a cartel rendezvous, then enters evidence transport on the form, which looks legitimate because departments do transport evidence between labs and courts. No dispatch audio is needed if the tasking is internal. The day's pay clears. The hours post to the schedule. The run disappears into routine. Certain tells repeat in municipal fraud, ghost vendors that share a mailbox with a UPS store, invoices that hit at month end for round dollar amounts, with no detailed line items or serial numbers, services that recur like clockwork, readiness checks, calibration, rapid response retainers, yet never generate rosters, sign-in sheets, or GPS trails to a training site. Those invoices pass purchase codes because they use the right language, not because they prove anything happened. And one name keeps surfacing: Halifax Protective Solutions. It shows up on reimbursements labeled readiness training. It shows up on minor fleet calibrations that never list a model or a serial. It shows up with clean vendor numbers and a valid W-9. When investigators lay every odd charge on a wall, those invoices cluster. The hub reads Northlight Project. That shell sits at the center, catching payments that look like training and spitting out cash off the books. We've seen the smoke in the logs. Next, we open the door to the room where the money moved. Where did $3,000 per officer per convoy run disappear without tripping a single vendor check? The answer sits behind a label that sounded civic and harmless. Northlight Project. Halifax Protective Solutions operated under that banner as security consulting, the kind of vendor that fits neatly inside police purchasing codes. The language checks out. The NAICS categories look normal. The invoices use the right terms: training, readiness, calibration, so they glide past procurement desks that focus on form and funding source, not field reality. The payments read clean. Line items describe fleet readiness assessments and equipment calibration cycles. Training entries reference modules and compliance refreshers. Yet nothing backs them. No rosters, no sign-in sheets, no addresses for training sites, no mileage entries for officers or pool vehicles. Gear supposedly calibrated has no serial numbers, no service tags, no technician initials. A department can't prove what didn't happen, and that is the point. The paper shows purpose without proof. Follow one escort. 2 cruisers roll dark along levee roads, shadowing a cash and cocaine carry that never hits dispatch. Days later, the ledger logs a $6,000 charge for a mobile readiness module, coded to training. That amount mirrors 2 officers at $3,000 each. The timing matches the run window. No one asks where the class took place because the entry sounds routine and sits under a budget that expects training spend before year-end. Here's how the money cleared the fence. The cartel pays off book. Halifax issues a ghost invoice for a service that reads plausible. The precinct reimburses from operating funds, using the ordinary process for vendor payment. Halifax then settles back channel in cash, balancing the favors owed for the escort. On the city side, the ledger shows a training cost. On the street side, the officers are paid. The pass-through launders dirty cash into a legitimate expense line and sends clean-looking money back out the side door. Open the contract stack and the cover thickens. One agreement leases training suites that don't exist. Another sets a maintenance retainer for rapid response units, a term vague enough to cover any vehicle at any time. Consulting language stretches pages, promising readiness audits and incident reviews with auto-renewal clauses and evergreen retainers. None of it requires deliverables beyond a quarterly memo. Round-dollar monthly fees arrive like rent. The shell signals are textbook. A P.O. box doubles as a business address. The same small circle of signatories appears on Halifax paperwork and on 2 other vendors in nearby jurisdictions. Names shift. Northlight here, Halifax there. But the banking trail pools in a single region. Retainers hit in round numbers at month end, smoothing the ledger and making audits skim over repetitive entries. Then the federal pivot lands. Covert recordings and 27 videos sync convoy movement with invoice timestamps to the hour. A cruiser slips past a floodgate camera, and 3 days later, a fleet calibration invoice posts for that unit's cost center. Audio catches the rate, $3,000 ahead, and the ledger echoes the number under training language. The road meets the books. Agents build the reconciliation line by line. The $3,000 rate holds across runs. Halifax and Northlight invoices carry that value disguised as modules, checks, and consult blocks. No gear shows up tagged, no classrooms open, yet the money moves. By the time they finish, the path totals about $3.4 million through reimbursements, padded contracts, and ghost maintenance. Not a single heist, but a steady drip hidden inside ordinary purchasing cycles. The paper maze is mapped. Now the question isn't who got paid. It's how we stop a system built to look honest while it funds crime. That starts where every invoice pretends to stand tall. Vendor legitimacy that proves activity, not just category language. The fraud didn't dodge safeguards. It wore a badge made of forms. The controls became the mask, and the mask passed inspection while moving cartel cash through official lines. So demand vendor transparency that names people, sites, and deliverables. Force GPS to fuel reconciliations every month. Put public audit trails online with invoices and approvals. Bring in independent integrity reviews that test controls with real data, not checklists.